Hey, welcome everyone. It's Tuesday and it's time for Shooting the Shiznit. That's right, the best little wrestling podcast in the business. This is episode 39 and we're live from STS Studios in St. Louis, Missouri. First, I would like to thank my buddy Sean there at W2MNET.com. That's W2Mnet.com. Bob McGee at Pro Wrestlers Between the Sheets, PWBTS.com, and G Jackson, Locals to Legends. That's www.localstolegends.com. This is, like I said, the 39th episode. Very special episode. We're bringing on Bob Barnett. I usually don't even announce the guest before I bring him on. But guys, this is a special episode. Bob was the father of shoot interviews. Did the very first shoot interview I ever known of with Eddie Gilbert. He has some very interesting things to say about the death of Eddie Gilbert. And just overall a fun episode. Sit back, listen with an open mind, and have a fun time with it. Want to recommend you come back Thursday because the Cool Kids Countdown with my buddy Lance Levine will be counting down. Well, not sure what we're counting down yet, but we'll be counting down something. All right, and you guys can visit us at tinyurl.com/STSPod merch. We have t-shirts, we have stickers, just a little bit of everything. You can visit paypal.com, and that's Brian_Trammell at yahoo.com. Send me some money. Thank me for being such a great guy. And also, if you go to the website, on your computer, you can see on the right, you can subscribe to Amazon Music Unlimited, Amazon Prime. We appreciate everything that you do to give us some kickbacks there. Believe me, you need to follow us at Comic Book Mark BT. That's at Comic Book Mark BT. The website has all the episodes. We also put up some YouTube videos and that surround the episode that we get through talking about. Today, we'll be putting some stuff up that Lawler said about Eddie Gilbert on some shoot interviews that goes along with this interview with Bob Barnett, and that's STSPod.club. If you want to join our Facebook group, it's Cool Kids Wrestling and MMA Talk. That's right. It's a closed group. It's secret. You have to ask to get in. And remember, guys, don't be an ass or we'll kick you out, all right? So we're also available on iTunes and Stitcher. Before I thank my other podcast bros, I want to thank you guys for listening. We had the third best downloads of the year. July is a summer month, and it's been a long time since I've been in a podcast business. I'm assuming it's kind of a slow month. Everyone's out and gone. We also had a special episode where it was just a bunch of bloopers, kind of a throwaway episode on July 4th. So thank you guys for listening. Big thank you out to Chase Owens. Chase, it was the number one most downloaded episode. Did a couple real big retweets and helped us out there, and was an excellent guest. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. Also, when you're not listening to us, listen to Suplex City Limits, Creative Control, or Keeping It 100 with Konnan. Hey guys, let's get to the show. This episode is being brought to you by Summer Scissor Shiznit Giveaway. That's right. You have to first follow me on Twitter at Comic Book Mark BT, and then all you have to do is listen to the podcast, retweet the podcast, and you are entered. I'm giving away shirts, lunchboxes, masks, wrestling masks, that's right, and stickers. Drawing for winners on September the 1st, 2017. Super Summer Scissor Shiznit Giveaway is proud to present this episode of Shooting the Shiznit. Hey everyone, I'm going to bring my guest from the green room. I know you enjoyed those chocolate chip cookies. Welcome, Bob Barnett. Hey Bob, how's it going?
I'm just fine. How you doing?
Oh, we're doing good. Me and Bob is kind of known each other for years. In those '80s, where we did fandom, where I call wrestling fandom, where guys, we went to conventions, or we did newsletters, or we traded tapes, or and the young kiddos won't get that. But this show is all about me sitting down with somebody I know or somebody I don't know, and you're kind of like, I know who Bob Barnett is, and we know each other's names, and you got my newsletter, and I got tapes from you, but we don't really know each other. So, but this will be fun because I want to talk about some of my favorite things, older favorite things, and that's Memphis wrestling.
Yeah, I wish I'd gone to some of those shows. I'm out in California for anybody that's wondering, so, yeah.
Right. All the way from California. Tell me something, though, and this is one of the main reasons I brought you, is to talk about Eddie Gilbert. And I consider you in the father of shoot interviews. I mean, you somehow convinced the guy back in, kayfabe days.
Big kayfabe days, yeah.
How did you... I know you're going to tell this and you're going to say, "Oh, it was easy, blah blah blah." But what?
No.
Just go through the
No.
process. Okay, good. I want to hear the story. Number one, Bob? Why was Eddie? What made Eddie your subject? Why did you want to talk to Eddie? There was tons of guys you could talk to at that time, but why was Eddie the guy you picked?
Just the stuff he was doing in Memphis. Nobody was doing it. He had such a great sense of humor. I mean, even if you hated his guts, if you were smart, you had to love the guy. I mean, he was doing everything for comedy and for reaction, and just being a smart-ass punk, and you just couldn't help but love the guy. It didn't matter what he did. If you knew what was going on, you had to love him.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the things that Eddie would say on an interview, a lot of the times, he was always bickering back and forth with Jury backstage. So, I mean, in his mind, Eddie had the perfect storyline. And if you were the fans of Eddie Gilbert, you felt like it was the perfect storyline too. And it was that the King, Jerry Lawler, was going to pass the torch down to him, just like Jackie Fargo had passed the torch down to Lawler. And I think many times Eddie came up with tons of storylines to do that. And the funny thing is, Lawler's still wrestling, so Lawler was never going to pass the torch, unfortunately.
No.
So that was one thing that Eddie, as a
kid, Has Lawler ever talked honestly about Eddie?
I don't know. I've never said, because I know it's kind of touchy. When I'm backstage. Right now, the main subjects you just say hi to Lawler. Lawler and Dundee are just guys you like to say hi to, still shake their hands, and Lawler likes to show off what new tights he's got with Batman on them and stuff and tell me, you ought to see what statue I got. I got the Batmobile, stuff like that. Jury's just a big kid, and he still loves to go to the matches and still likes to entertain, and don't really have to do it. I mean, he's got plenty of money, but still loves the. And he does it. He had told a story. I know we're getting off subject here, but in a dressing room, he told a story one night. It was me, Brandon Baxter, that used to do Pyro Pro, and gosh, I don't know who else is in the. It was a little independent place, and he said, "Look, I don't know anything else to do." That explained it all. I mean, it really did. It was like, do you still like getting in a car on Saturday night, driving the distance, and wrestling in front of, that crowd was really small. And he said, yeah. He goes, I don't know anything else. What else is there to do on a Saturday night is to get in a car and drive, 2 hours to wrestle and get your stuff back on and go home. So I guess he'll do it till the day he dies.
Yeah. Yeah, he's committed. He's definitely committed.
Right, and I think you're right. I mean, that might be a guy to ask, about.
Well, he's the only guy. I mean, he's the guy that had the weirdest relationship of all time with Eddie. And Eddie, even though he only talked about it a little bit with me, I could just tell it just really bothered him, because I don't think he ever knew what Lawler thought about him, if Lawler was going to pass the torch, if Lawler thought he was his equal as far as, booking going, I don't think he really knew what Lawler thought of him. And he had great respect for Lawler, but it was getting him really frustrated, at the end.
It did, and I seen Eddie. Just one of these things where it was him that was doing it, and it made it. I was in Jonesboro, Arkansas. I was at the Saturday night show that they did, and Eddie started in the opening match. He did something around the third match, and it was all building for him and Lawler in the main event. And that we had a truck pull, we had a fair, we had something else, a big choir, a big graduation. There was tons of stuff in town, and it had the biggest crowd I'd ever seen, and it was like packed, like 1,300 to 1,400 people in this little bitty ass building. And the heat for him and Lawler, just was ungodly amount in that little building. And they didn't do nothing. They didn't have to, Eddie ended up bleeding, and I went backstage, and it's the only time I'd ever spent not a lot of time with him, but he was bleeding like crazy, and Missy was trying to get it, and she said his blood pressure was too high, and it was squirting blood everywhere. So I was like, hey, I'm done with this. I don't, I can watch it on TV, but I don't want to see this backstage kind of thing. So I have pictures of Missy with the bloody gauze in her hand, so that's pretty gross, but I really do. So tell me the story. We decided we're going to do an interview with Eddie Gilbert. But this is why, Bob. Why did you say I'm going to do an interview not only just with Eddie Gilbert, but what made you say, well, I'm going to do an interview, but this is not going to be a worked interview. This is going to be down to earth. This is going to be.
I didn't know how to do a worked interview. I knew Kim Collins, who used to live in remember it was Tennessee or Kentucky. I met her at the Lano's Sam Muchnick convention. And we became really good friends, and she knew Eddie. She knew a lot of guys. I mean, she knew Jeff Jarrett too, but she knew Eddie, and Eddie really trusted her. And so I told her that's what I wanted to do, and so she told Eddie, and Eddie was hemming and hawing. Some days he'd say yes, some days he'd say no. But when it got to his dad didn't want to do it. I mean, his dad really told him not to do it, and by the time we were ready to do it, he told his dad he wasn't going to do it, but he was going to do it. I mean, he really just had to sneak the whole thing. And the whole thing was weird because I flew into Kim. I think it was he was going to do a Saturday night show in Nashville or Memphis. I don't even remember.
You're right. It would be Nashville. That's where the big.
And
they did a spot show. Yeah.
Yeah, and they got hit by a huge hailstorm, and all the power was knocked out. So when I flew in, there was no power anywhere in the city. I lucked out. I got into one of the few hotel rooms that had power. I had to pay big bucks for it. And Kim came and visited me, and Eddie called, and she called, and we got it arranged. But since Eddie wasn't coming to town, I had to go to Jackson, Tennessee to do it. I didn't know Jackson from a hole in the wall. And there was a hailstorm. And so, here I was wasted, and I had to drive all the way to Jackson. What was it, 100 miles? I don't know.
Right. Yeah, it's a good piece. Jackson to, you're right. That's a good drive.
So I'm lucky. I had Kim with me. She was really jacked up about doing the interview, and I talked to Eddie once before that, and he said, yeah, it's going to be real good. So we drove to Ramadi, and we go to the front desk. They told us he was in the farthest back room. He was hiding. He had gone there with Doug, but he put Doug in another room, and John Gillum was in the room with him. And I walked in, and I started to shoot, and the power went off right away. And all we could get was a couple of lamps on. All my stuff burned out, and all the lights in the room burned out pretty much. So that's why when you see the interview, it's pretty dark.
Right.
Yeah. We didn't have any other way to do it. I mean, that whole area had just been blasted by the storm, and I didn't know what was going to happen. But I was so glad to be there, and I was so dingy from traveling that I just started asking him questions, and he just kept talking. I mean, he was talking about anything. He never told me he wouldn't talk about something. And at the time, I didn't really know anything really touchy to ask him about because I really didn't know him that well until that night.
Right,
and basically, I told him, I said, listen, I'm going to sell the interview. And I'm going to give you a master, and you can sell the interview. I don't care, because they figured at all these shows he's doing, he'd probably want to sell it. So that's how we did it. I mean, it was 2 hours until the batteries ran out, and it was early stuff. That was 8 millimeter, and that's just what we did that night. Everything's on tape.
So just, I mean, and it was. Can you give me figures of how many? Just guessing how many copies you sold of that?
I probably sold 500 or 1,000. I'm not really sure, and I don't know if he ever sold any. You know, I told him.
I don't think he did. No, I think. And what did you when you sent it? Did you talk to Eddie? I know. Did this start a friendship, or you guys talk after that a lot?
Yeah, he especially called me when he was in Puerto Rico, because he'd be watching CNN and he'd want to discuss the news. Eddie loved watching the news. And, when he wasn't in Tennessee, that's really all he had to do. I don't think he partied too much in Puerto Rico, except for maybe once in a while leaving the room at the end. But, I mean, for the most part, he just liked watching CNN and talking about, the news and smart stuff. And, we got into some pretty heavy stuff. I mean, one night I could tell he was really down. And I said, "Oh, you're just still in love with Missy." And he goes, "Yeah, that's the problem." And, this was post-Medusa, and he was just a mess. I mean, towards the end, he just, his emotions were getting the better of him.
And was he happy with the tape? Was he happy with what you guys put together?
Yeah, he loved it. From what his mom told me years and years ago, he always had it with him.
Awesome.
He'd show it to people, or he'd watch it, or, he really dug it. He told me a few times he really dug it, that he didn't know what would happen, and I think eventually even his dad liked it.
Yeah, Tommy's an old school there, so that was just something. I remember getting the tape and thinking to myself, what the hell is this? And then listening to the stuff that Eddie said, and it was just crazy. And then you were selling copies and trying to keep people from bootlegging this and bootlegging that, and then it's like everyone had a copy, and I was like, did you get yours from Bob? No, and then I sold tapes, but there were certain things that I didn't sell. I didn't sell your copy, and there were some things that I put in the list.
The guy that sold the most of them, besides me at least, was Feinstein.
That's what I was going to say. I believe that Rob probably saw, RF Video at the time before that, sold probably more copies than anybody.
Yeah.
And, I didn't, and then I had some tapes that Cornette put on from 8mm or whatever, the video, film to video. And he had spent a bunch of money, and I ended up putting them on my tape list. And then he sent me a video and said, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" And then come to find, I told him, man, I took him off the list. I didn't know he had done it. I got a hold of him by someone else, and so I was kind of, I try to, in the bootleg wrestling tape business, I tried to be, upfront with everybody, and it's good. And me being in Memphis, I had after, you could get 2 VCRs or ever how many. I think I ended up with 8 at one time. Me being in Memphis and being able to record directly from, Channel 5, the 90-minute version, I could trade and get almost anything. I want to ask you, though, about something else. So I've heard you're one of the people that said it, and I remember many years ago, kind of some speculation on some news board, and I have no idea what it is. My memory's horrible anyway. But let's talk about, because I know stories that I was told. Okay, so I'm going to not reveal who was my source, but let me just say, if anyone knows me, knows that I was involved with Memphis wrestling. I had a very excellent source that no one knew about. In Memphis wrestling, and found out tons of stuff. I had a call about when Eddie died, and knew it and I know Doug probably don't even know this. I knew about it before Doug did. I knew about it before what they had told Randy Hales, and Randy and Doug was about to go to the ring, and I think they let him wrestle first and then told him. But I was told about it before that. And the story I was told is that Dutch walked through the door and, Eddie was passed out with his earphones on the bed. Okay, so we got a few stories here. I think the family still says it was a heart attack, right? Is that what they believe it was?
I think that's what they said. I never bought it.
Okay, and then one of the main things was that it was a drug overdose. And most people that know Eddie said, okay.
Okay, it could have been. I always thought it was an intentional drug overdose. I don't think it was Eddie that did it. Eddie was doing a bunch of drugs, but he wasn't doing uppers that would have given him the heart attack.
All right, I know what you're fixing to say, so I want to hear this because I want to hear it coming out of someone's mouth instead of someone typing it on the internet. And you were friends with Eddie during this time. Because what happened? So, in your opinion, what happened? Because you said I heard you say once on another podcast that you was getting calls from Eddie and he was needing to borrow some money. And what do you think happened?
He was desperate for money. He wanted to borrow $10,000 from me, and he said he had a couple of cars back there that he'd sign over to me. And I remember this is the only time I ever talked to Dutch. I called Dutch, and I go, Eddie just called me and said that. What would you do? And he hung the phone up. I go, that's all I needed.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Eddie was in really, really bad shape. So, yeah, I mean, he offered to sign a pickup truck or something else over to me, and there was no way. I mean,
why did he need money when he was making money over there? That's my question.
Well, yeah, he must have owed somebody some dough. I mean, he was really desperate for it quick. I mean, $10 grand was a lot of cash back then. That's 20 years ago.
Sure it was. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of money, and so your belief is that maybe it was a drug OD or whatever, but it wasn't Eddie doing it.
No, I think whoever. I mean, this is a theory, but I think whoever he owed money to took care of him because I don't think he even wanted to be in Puerto Rico at that time.
Wow.
He might have been wrestling the debts off or something. I mean, I don't know if $10,000 was all he was in debt. That's just all he was trying to hit me up for.
And I just like I said, I've seen very little about that, and then heard I heard and I knew you had talked about it. I was just kind of in shock, but nothing after what happened with Brody and everything that went on during that time, and I was good friends with Dutch at the time, and I was good friends with Bobby Jaggers, and was able. And no, Dutch wasn't my Memphis source, if people want to guess, but Jaggers and Dutch were just after that happened. They never were going back to Puerto Rico, blah blah blah, which we know that happened.
Yeah.
But they were the stories that they would tell about Puerto Rico. It just seemed like you were fighting for your life at all times, and I never thought anything about hey, I honestly thought it was an OD. I know there's other people that told me that Eddie was that they just really never seen Eddie as the pill popper. Maybe smoke weed every once in a while, but never seen him.
He would take pain pills. He was in pain. He had a lot of pain.
Okay.
But he wasn't. He wasn't doing enough to OD. I mean, he just wanted him around because, he was in pain. I mean, he'd had some nasty injuries. I mean, going back to that neck injury, he was a mess. But I never knew him to do blow or talk about it or taking uppers of any kind.
Well, that's it's just crazy. Hopefully, like I said, I probably that might open some eyes to some things for people who listen to this for the first time. Like I said, I read it on Obscure. I can't remember what. Someone put it up, and I was like, that's bullshit years later. And then, I heard you talking about it. It's like, well, we're going to bring Bob on and we'll talk about it.
As soon as I read that official explanation, supposedly, I just didn't buy it. I mean, I had talked to him within, a couple of weeks, a couple of times, and it just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, you got somebody wanting money. There's a reason why he wants money, and that's just speculation. Like you said, we're allegedly saying this could have happened. We don't know. It's just a theory, and it's just shocking and a point to me to think something like that would happen. And then part of me says, yeah, I can see it happening. So now you did the Eddie. Especially there. You did the Eddie shoot, and did. Now, see, here's where my memory. Did you decide, hey, I'm going to do some more of these like this, or did you ever do any more shoot interviews?
No, the only ones I ever did were with Vampiro, and I just did one with Art Barr in his dressing room after when Worlds Collide, but him and Eddie were both flying that day. I just didn't think there were that many guys that were that interesting that had that much to say.
Wow.
And the guys that would have something to say probably wouldn't say it, like Lawler. I mean, Lawler would have been another guy, but I just didn't ever think they'd really be honest about it. She knew Sting and Luger real well too, Kim Collins, and I could have probably gotten something with them, especially towards the end. But I don't know. I didn't think anybody who's going to have stories like Eddie. I mean, it's not going to happen.
And who's going to make a business on doing shoot interviews anyway? I mean, how could you make a living doing that?
Yeah, I have to guess that Feinstein has spent tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get the interviews. I mean, I know I think he paid Doug about $1,500 for his. Doug contacted me and wanted to do it with me because he knew, about the Eddie one.
Oh wow, really?
And this is at least 6 months or a year before Feinstein, and he wanted to do it. And I told him, look, I'm not going to front any money because I don't know if it'll sell. That's when they weren't selling anymore. I said, we'll do it, and we can split the profits, but, and plus I wasn't sure what Doug would say. He'd been calling me, and I was going to on my own dime, go down there and talk to him and everything. And, when he didn't get the money up front, I think he lost it. And then, I don't know if he approached Feinstein or Feinstein approached him, but as soon as I heard that, I just screw Doug. It's just,
I didn't ever. Me and Doug's had a I don't know. Me and Doug's had a weird relationship in and out of around the business, and it just never was. I don't know. Me and him has just never been cordial to each other, and it's nothing to do with. It's really not anything to do with either one of us. It's just things that's happened. He knows somebody I know in real life and shoot life instead of wrestling, and it's just one of those things we got heat with each other because of it. It's just real weird.
Yeah, I didn't have any heat with him. It's just I just get real pissed off at people that take money from pedophiles. So that was enough.
Now, folks, I don't edit anything out. So that was Bob Barnett saying that, not me.
Believe me, I've dared Feinstein 1 million times to sue me for saying that.
This is 1,000,001, by the way.
Yeah,
I know. I've counted it. So no, Bob. Just a fantastic. The thing about it is also and you said Vampiro, and here I am thinking at the time that you were, and you said Eddie and Art were flying high. They did drugs. Wait, what? You were in that kind of when all that was happening. How the hell did you be the one that jumped in there and videotaped all the stuff that was going on with Art Barr and Eddie? Did you know both of those guys? And Vampiro, if you're going to do a shoot interview with Vampiro, I still haven't seen the questions that need to be asked of Vampiro. It's because
probably couldn't remember. I mean, he's just been dropped on his head he'll even tell you that. I mean, he's had some major concussions that are starting to affect him, later in life.
Do you still stay in contact with him?
Yeah, he's coming over next week. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
They're doing production meetings for the next season of Lucha Underground.
Oh, that is awesome because he was just, to me, I never got it. I really never got it at first because he never, to me, was not. At the time, I was a work rate guy. So Art Barr and Eddie Guerrero were, oh my God, I know why everybody likes him, but I didn't get why Vampiro was so popular to the 14-year-old girls, And going back, I do now. I get it, but I didn't get it at the time, and I never was a huge fan of his. I like the stuff he did in WCW, but I have listened to some of his shoot interviews, and I just think he's, just comes off as really cool, and he seems to be honest with what he's saying. I heard people say he bullshits too much, but people don't understand that that's what wrestlers do. So,
yeah, I mean, after a while, you don't know what's real or what's not real, and really, I mean, he after the 2 consecutive concussions he took in 2 nights against Mike Awesome, when Awesome was drunk, and dropped him on his head twice from the top rope. He's never quite been the same. I don't think. He just forgets a lot of stuff. He's gone through a lot of therapy and stuff, but there's only so much of your brain you can get back when a 300-pound guy drops you on your head.
At that time, though, I mean, we do know, these guys were doing. It's always been popular in Mexico. Cocaine was very popular in Mexico most of the time, and probably still is.
God. Yeah.
Is that something you've seen a lot of?
I didn't see it. I mean, I knew there were plenty of guys doing it. That there was the famous story. What was it? Octagon got busted in Tijuana. He had a trunk full of blow and an unconscious teenage girl in the front seat. And Pena basically owned him for life after he got him out of that bust. And then there was the real famous one with Jerry Estrada. He was in the second floor of a hotel with some woman, and he got her really loaded, and I guess she gave him a bunch of shit. And the word is he pushed her out the window and killed her. And he realized he killed her right away, and he went right to the airport. Just took the next plane out of town. So there was a lot of craziness going on down there.
We talked about that. Yeah, we talked about it on a podcast. I do a countdown, and we were talking about no matter what, throughout the whole years, you always see the Mexican promotions as kind of, I don't know, I guess the best word is sleazy. I guess that's the best. It's almost like they're, if you work there, you'd have to wash your hands every day kind of thing, because there's so much going on. Even, recently we had the car that they destroyed the car there. So it's almost like it was, and you talking about, being there during a little bit of so much popularity going, and Konnan at the time, was he, was this some guy that was approachable, or was, because he was super fucking popular too. So, I mean, you're talking about two guys that were so over.
I had a very complicated relationship with Konnan. I was his enemy because I knew Vampiro. Then I was his friend. Then because I listened to Howard Stern, I'd get him tapes and stuff. Then I was Then I was his friend. Then I was his enemy. Then I was his friend. He was always up and down. I talked to him a lot. I mean, even when one day he called me and threatened me to, have me buried in lime next time I was in Mexico. And then I ended up talking to him 3 hours about booking. So Carlos was all over the place. Yeah, he was approachable, and he was a pretty funny guy. He was a real entertaining guy. I sort of stopped being on the ends with him probably about 2005 when I stopped going to TJ. It was getting real nasty down there. A lot of the promoters had bailed. Benjamin Mora, I can't remember if he was still promoting the shows down there then. He just died, and a lot of the cartels and shit were running the shows. I mean, it was just an ego thing for drug dealers to run the shows. In Tijuana, they had such loaded shows down there. It was just amazing.
Right, yeah. Well, it's Konnan's still making money in Tijuana, so that's we was just talking about Doug, and that story about the lime is it beats my story. But Doug actually called me one night at 2:00 in the morning and screamed at me because of something I did, which was foolish. But he told me that he was going to come to my house, knock down my door, and shove his barbed wire baseball bat up my ass. So there's very few people in the world that can say they've had some man call them and threaten to shove a barbed wire baseball bat up their ass. And I'm one of them. And I don't know. There's probably more guys in the world that's been the lime thing, because that's kind of, that's kind of gangster. So, but the baseball bat up your ass, that's not one of a kind, because there was other guys that carried the baseball bat. But that's what he told.
That's great.
It was really great because at first, scared shitless kind of thing. I knew Doug wasn't Doug was good about doing anything he said he was going to do, and part of me then, after I got off the phone, it was just hilarious because I was good friends with everyone on the police force, and he would have never got anywhere near me if he wanted to. But it was just one of those things where you go, yeah, and then Same thing with you. I had Doug call me 6 months later and wanted to know if he could buy a wrestling ring from me. So, and there you go. We talked for, like an hour and a half on different things. So, but
Yeah.
that's the wrestling business too. Hey, we're closing in on it 30 minutes. We're going to call it a night. We may bring you on after I think of some other stuff to talk to you about, Bob. But I do want to thank Bob for coming on. It was a fantastic time. Guys, we'll be back here, same bat time, same bat channel, right here. The best little podcast in the business.